First ladies are expected to be the model wives and mothers of America, but that can be a tall order to fill. More than a few first ladies spent their husbands' times in office in unusual ways. With that in mind, these first ladies were actually really weird people. Lyndon and Lady Bird Johnson were engaged just 10 weeks after meeting, but even that wait was almost too much for Lyndon, who had proposed to her during their first date. Their honeymoon in Mexico involved so much physical intimacy that when Lady Bird got back to the States, the first thing she did was see a gynecologist. Normally a routine examination before marriage, she neglected to make the appointment in the rush to the altar. But given her husband's notorious appetite for women, the exam more or less made sure that she could even handle the future president's constant advances. But no doctor could help her with her husband's wandering eye. According to Texas Monthly, Lyndon liked women, and he didn't care if his wife was around while he liked them. However, his political career meant he couldn't afford to divorce her, and she knew it. But that didn't stop Lady Bird from modeling herself on a woman her husband had a decades-long affair with. She copied her clothes, makeup, and jewelry, all in the hopes her husband would stay interested and stop sleeping around. The weirdest thing about Pat Nixon is that she was married to Richard Nixon. He was a rude, standoffish individual, whereas everyone seemed to think Pat was the greatest woman who had ever lived. As soon as she arrived on the world stage when her husband became vice president in 1953, organizations threw awards at her for just being the best. According to Parade, Pat was named Outstanding Homemaker of the Year in 1953, Mother of the Year in 1955, and the Nation's Ideal Wife by the Homemakers Forum in 1957. Pat was so popular that when Richard ran for president in 1960, his campaign pushed the slogan "Pat for First Lady" and put it on everything from buttons to bumper stickers. She was also in the top 10 of Gallup's yearly poll of most admired men and women in the world 14 times, including the 4 years immediately after her husband resigned in disgrace. Melania Trump was never a very successful model, which is why it's so weird that one of the few campaigns she did star in seemed to echo her future a little too closely. In a July 2016 profile, the New York Times reported that a Slovenian fashion label hired her in the early 1990s to act in a commercial. It features her exiting a large plane surrounded by bodyguards, driving past adoring crowds, and signing official-looking legislation. According to the director, she was playing the part of the first female president of the United States. But perhaps the weirdest thing Melania has ever done is apparently trolling her husband online. While Donald is obsessed with Twitter, Melania doesn't use her official @FLOTUS handle very much. She only follows 6 people. Both her husband's accounts, the Vice President and Second Lady, the official White House history account, and Barack Obama, her husband's predecessor whom he absolutely hates. Eleanor Roosevelt is famous for a lot of things, but during her lifetime she was controversial, not just for her actions or political views, but also because she basically became a supermodel. It might sound crazy, but according to the Washington Post, advertisers were climbing over each other to sign her as a model for their brands. Roosevelt advertised everything from hot dog buns to mattresses. Congress was none too pleased when they realized what the First Lady was getting up to in her free time. They even went so far as to launch an inquiry. But Eleanor shut it down when she revealed that almost all the money she made from her pitchwoman career went to charity. That made it a little hard to be mad at her, and the inquiry was dropped. Jackie Kennedy was the perfect First Lady. She was poised and beautiful and comfortable around power. According to the book Jackie, Janet, and Lee, she was raised this way from the beginning. She and her sister Lee learned from their mother to be thin and pleasing to men, rich men in particular. So Jackie married a future president, while Lee married a Polish prince. But there were serious rivalries between the two women. Writer Gore Vidal swears Lee slept with John F. Kennedy repeatedly while he was married to Jackie, and that the First Lady knew about it but was too proper to make a fuss. After John's death, Jackie let a respectable amount of time pass before marrying Greek shipping magnate Aristotle Onassis. There was just one problem. Onassis had been Lee's boyfriend for 6 years. Lee had introduced the two, and they went behind her back and made a marriage of convenience for both of them. Then Jackie didn't even bother telling Lee what was happening. Instead, it was Onassis who called his girlfriend, told her he'd decided to marry her sister, and said he'd love it if she came to the wedding. Lee did come, but the sisters' relationship was completely destroyed, and Jackie stuck the knife in again at the end, leaving nothing to Lee in her will. Julia Tyler wasn't John Tyler's First Lady, but when her predecessor died and she married into the job, she decided she was going to use it to make herself famous. According to the National First Ladies Library, shortly after her marriage, Julia commissioned a flattering etching of herself wearing expensive jewels and a fancy dress. She then had it mass-produced and available for sale so anyone could have the joy of looking at her. Tyler was the first known First Lady to try and get her name in the papers on her own merit. She befriended reporters and made sure there were constant descriptions of events she went to. There's even some evidence that she may have handed out these press releases rather than just waiting and hoping a reporter would cover her.